stop right there. Before you scroll away, let me ask you something that will change how you see your workplace forever. Why do some people get promoted while you stay stuck? Why does your boss listen to certain employees but ignore you? Why do mediocre performers somehow climb faster than talented ones? Here's the brutal truth most people never figure out. Your boss isn't evaluating you on merit alone. Your boss is reading signals, patterns, and psychological cues you don't even know you're sending. And while you're working harder, someone else is working smarter by understanding exactly how your boss thinks. Think about it. You spend 40, 50, maybe 60 hours a week around this person. Yet most employees never actually study them. They complain about them. They fear them. They avoid them. But they never truly understand them. That ends today, because in the next few minutes you're going to learn something most people never discover in their entire career. How to read your boss like a professional intelligence analyst, not through manipulation or games, through strategic observation, psychological understanding, and professional positioning that transforms how you're perceived, valued, and compensated. This isn't about kissing up. This isn't about playing politics. This is about understanding the psychological patterns that drive decision-making in every workplace on Earth. And once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. Your boss operates on predictable psychological principles. They have triggers, blind spots, decision-making patterns, and emotional drivers. Most employees stumble through this landscape blindly, but you're about to get the map. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." But here's the twist. That works both ways. Your boss appears one way to most employees, but you're about to see what they really are. Before we go deeper, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I read patterns, not just words. That affirmation matters. Because from this moment forward, you're not just an employee, you're an observer, an analyst, someone who understands the game while others are still figuring out the rules. Now let's get into the strategies that separate the promoted from the overlooked. Law 1. Decode their communication style. First, here's something most employees never realize. Your boss doesn't communicate the same way you do. And every time you miss that difference, you lose credibility, trust, and influence without even knowing it. Listen carefully. There are 4 primary communication styles in professional environments: analytical, driver, expressive, and amiable. Your boss falls into one of these categories, and if you're speaking the wrong language, it doesn't matter how good your ideas are. Think about it like this. You could have the best solution in the room, but if your boss is analytical and you're presenting emotionally, they tune out. If your boss is a driver and you're buried in details, they lose patience. If your boss is expressive and you're speaking in monotone data, they forget you exist. Most people present information the way they like to receive it. That's the fatal mistake. Professional intelligence means adapting to how your boss processes information, not forcing them to adapt to you. Let me break this down practically. The analytical boss needs data, frameworks, and logical structure. When you approach them, lead with numbers, research, and systematic thinking. They respect preparation and precision. If you walk in with vague ideas or emotional appeals, you've already lost them. The driver boss wants results, speed, and bottom-line impact. They don't care about the journey, they care about the destination. When presenting to a driver, start with a conclusion. Tell them what you need, what it costs, and what outcome it produces. Cut everything else. Drivers respect confidence and clarity, not elaboration. The expressive boss thrives on vision, storytelling, and big-picture thinking. They want to feel inspired, not informed. When you communicate with an expressive leader, paint the future, use metaphors, show enthusiasm, connect your idea to broader impact. Expressive bosses remember how you made them feel more than what you said. The amiable boss values relationships, harmony, and team consensus. They avoid conflict and prefer collaborative approaches. When working with an amiable leader, emphasize how your idea benefits the team, builds cooperation, and maintains positive dynamics. Amiable bosses trust people who consider everyone's perspective. Now here's where it gets powerful. Most employees never identify which style their boss uses. They just keep communicating the same way and wonder why nothing lands. But you're going to do something different. Over the next week, observe every interaction your boss has. Watch their emails. Notice their meeting style. Listen to what frustrates them and what energizes them. Within 3 days, you'll identify their primary communication style. And once you know that, you adjust. Not by being fake, by being strategically fluent in their language. This isn't manipulation. This is professional adaptation. Doctors speak differently to patients than to other doctors. Lawyers adjust their language depending on the audience. You're doing the same thing. Machiavelli understood this principle deeply. He wrote that a ruler must speak to people in the language they understand, not the language that feels comfortable. Your boss is no different. When you match their communication style, something shifts. They listen longer, they remember your input, they start seeing you as someone who gets it. And in competitive environments, being understood is half the battle. But here's the part most people miss. Communication style also reveals decision-making patterns. An analytical boss makes decisions slowly through data. A driver boss decides fast, through instinct. An expressive boss decides emotionally, through vision. An amiable boss decides through consensus, avoiding risk. Knowing this tells you exactly how to position your ideas for maximum acceptance. It tells you when to push and when to wait. It tells you how much detail to provide and how much conviction to show. Think about how much energy you've wasted presenting ideas that never got traction. Not because the ideas were bad, because you were speaking Mandarin to someone who only understands Spanish. That ends now. Identify their style. Adapt your communication. Watch how quickly your influence expands. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I speak their language. Law 2. Map their pressure points and priorities. Every boss operates under invisible pressure. Deadlines they can't miss, metrics they're measured on, stakeholders they answer to, fears they never voice publicly. And if you don't understand these pressure points, you'll never truly position yourself strategically. Most employees think their boss's job is just managing them. Wrong. Your boss has a boss. Your boss has quarterly targets. Your boss has internal politics and external pressures you never see. And those pressures shape every decision they make. Here's the truth. Your boss doesn't care about your career growth because it's noble. They care when it aligns with solving their problems. Your boss doesn't promote based on fairness. They promote based on who makes their life easier and their results stronger. That sounds harsh. But it's reality. And once you accept reality, you stop wasting energy on what should be and start investing in what actually works. So how do you map their pressure points? You observe, you listen, you connect dots others miss. Start with their calendar. What meetings dominate their time? If they're constantly in budget reviews, finances are a pressure point. If they're always in client calls, revenue and retention matter most. If they're buried in executive briefings, visibility to senior leadership drives their decisions. Next, listen to their language in meetings. What phrases do they repeat? We need to move faster. Speed is a priority. We can't afford mistakes here. Risk avoidance matters. Leadership is watching this closely. Political visibility is critical. The team needs to step up. Performance gaps are creating pressure. Your boss's vocabulary reveals their internal scoreboard. Most employees hear words. Strategic employees decode priorities. Now here's where you create leverage. Once you identify their top 3 pressure points, you position yourself as a solution to those specific problems, not in an obvious brown-nosing way, through consistent, quiet demonstration. If your boss is under pressure to deliver faster, you become the person who accelerates timelines without being asked. If your boss is stressed about quality, you become the person who catches problems before they escalate. If your boss needs better visibility to leadership, you create documentation and communication that makes them look good upward. Think about it. If you solve the problems keeping your boss up at night, you become indispensable, not because you're the hardest worker, because you're the most strategically valuable. But here's the part most people never consider. Pressure points also reveal vulnerabilities, and vulnerabilities tell you where not to push. If your boss is insecure about technical knowledge, don't publicly correct them in meetings. If they're sensitive about their leadership style, don't challenge their authority in front of others. If they're worried about their own position, don't threaten their status by appearing too ambitious. Professional intelligence means understanding not just what drives someone, but what destabilizes them. You protect their vulnerabilities while solving their priorities. That's how trust is built at a strategic level. Machiavelli once said, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel." Your boss's pressures are what few can feel, but you're going to feel them. And when you consistently deliver against their actual priorities, rather than what you assume they want, your value becomes undeniable. You're not just another employee, you're someone who understands the game they're playing and helps them win it. Let me give you a real example. I once worked with someone whose boss was obsessed with cross-functional collaboration. Not because he loved teamwork philosophically, but because the CEO kept asking about departmental silos. That was his pressure point. Political visibility around breaking down barriers. Most of the team kept working in isolation, doing good work but staying invisible to that priority. One person figured it out. She started creating simple collaboration updates, documenting cross-team wins, and positioning her projects as examples of integrated execution. Within 6 months, she was promoted, not because she worked harder, because she worked directly against her boss's most visible pressure point. That's not politics, that's professional intelligence. So right now, ask yourself, what are the top 3 pressures your boss faces? Where is their attention consistently focused? What problems, if solved, would make their performance reviews glowing? Find those answers, then position yourself as the solution. Not loudly, not desperately, strategically. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I solve what matters. Law 3. Recognize their decision-making patterns. Here's something that will change how you approach every request, every proposal, every conversation with your boss. They don't make decisions randomly. They follow patterns, predictable, consistent patterns. And once you see those patterns, you know exactly when to ask, how to ask, and what increases your probability of success. Most employees treat every interaction the same. They walk in with requests whenever it's convenient for them, present information however feels natural, and hope for the best. That's amateur hour. Professional intelligence means studying when decisions get made, how they get made, and what factors increase approval rates. Let's start with timing. Your boss makes different quality decisions at different times. Early morning, some bosses are sharp, focused, analytical. Late afternoon, decision fatigue sets in. They default to no, or let me think about it, just to conserve mental energy. Pay attention to when your boss says yes most often. Is it Monday mornings when they're fresh? Is it right after successful meetings when they're in a good mood? Is it late Friday when they're mentally checking out and more likely to approve things quickly just to clear their plate? Timing isn't manipulation, it's strategic positioning. A request at the right time has double the success rate of the same request at the wrong time. Now let's talk about decision-making style. Does your boss decide quickly or slowly? Some leaders are instinctive. They hear an idea, trust their gut, and commit immediately. Others are deliberate. They need time, data, and multiple perspectives before moving forward. If your boss is instinctive, present ideas with conviction and confidence. Don't overload them with details. Give them the core concept, the key benefit, and let their instinct take over. Instinctive decision makers trust clarity and confidence. If your boss is deliberate, do the opposite. Bring research, anticipate objections, show you've thought through risks. Deliberate decision makers trust preparation and thoroughness. Rushing them backfires. Here's another pattern most people miss. Does your boss make decisions alone or collaboratively? Some leaders want to be the sole decision maker. They see input as interference. Others want consensus and feel uncomfortable deciding without team buy-in. If your boss decides alone, frame your proposals as recommendations they can own. Make them feel like the decision is theirs. Give them options, not directives. Solitary decision makers protect their authority. If your boss decides collaboratively, involve others early. Build support before the formal ask. Show that the team is aligned. Collaborative decision makers fear isolation and value social proof. Now here's where it gets really powerful. Every boss has decision triggers, specific factors that make them more likely to say yes. For some, it's ROI. Show them financial impact and they lean in. For others, it's risk mitigation. Show them how you've minimized downside and they relax. For others, it's competitive advantage. Show them how this puts the team ahead and they commit. Your job is to identify their primary decision trigger and speak directly to it every time, not by guessing, by observing what questions they ask repeatedly, what concerns they raise most often, and what makes them visibly more comfortable or uncomfortable. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He wrote that a prince must know not just what to do, but when to do it and how to frame it. Timing and framing determine outcomes more than the quality of the idea itself. Think about how many good ideas die because they were presented at the wrong time in the wrong way to someone whose decision-making pattern wasn't understood. That's not bad luck. That's lack of professional intelligence. So here's your homework. For the next 2 weeks, track every decision your boss makes. Note the time of day. Note what convinced them. Note what made them hesitate. Note who influenced them. Note how long they took. Within 2 weeks, you'll see clear patterns emerge. And once you see those patterns, you've unlocked a cheat code. You know exactly when to present ideas, how to frame them, what objections to anticipate, and what increases your approval rate from 30% to 80%. This isn't manipulation. This is professional competence. Doctors diagnose before they prescribe. Lawyers understand judges before they argue cases. You understand decision patterns before you make requests. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I know when to move. Law 4. Read their emotional baseline and deviations. Your boss is human. That means they have emotions, moods, and psychological states that shift throughout the day, week, and month. Most employees ignore this completely. They treat their boss like a machine that should respond consistently regardless of context. That's a costly mistake. Professional intelligence means reading emotional baselines and noticing deviations. Because when your boss is off their baseline, your strategy needs to adapt immediately. Here's what I mean by baseline. Every person has a default emotional state. Some bosses are naturally optimistic and energetic. Some are serious and reserved. Some are anxious and detail-oriented. Some are calm and measured. That's their baseline, the normal operating mode you see most days. But baselines shift. Stress, personal issues, organizational pressure, bad news, these all create emotional deviations. And when your boss deviates from baseline, your approach must change. Let me give you an example. If your boss is usually collaborative but suddenly becomes short and directive, something changed. Maybe they received pressure from above. Maybe a project failed. Maybe they're dealing with something personal. You don't need to know the cause, you just need to notice the shift. When you notice a negative deviation, this is not the time to ask for raises, push new ideas, or challenge decisions. This is the time to execute flawlessly, reduce friction, and make their life easier. Emotional deviations are windows where you either build trust or destroy it. On the other hand, positive deviations are golden opportunities. If your boss is unusually upbeat, energized, or relaxed, that's when you present bigger ideas, ask for resources, or discuss career growth. Positive emotional states increase openness, risk tolerance, and generosity. Most employees miss these windows completely. They walk into their boss's office with a request on the worst possible day emotionally, then wonder why they got shut down. Or they sit on opportunities during positive windows because they didn't recognize the moment. Reading emotional states isn't about being manipulative. It's about being situationally aware. It's about recognizing that humans process information differently, depending on their psychological state. Now let's talk about emotional triggers. Every boss has specific things that elevate or deflate their mood. Some are triggered by recognition from leadership, some by smooth execution, some by team cohesion, some by innovation, some by efficiency. When you identify what elevates their mood, you can strategically create those conditions, not in a fake way, through genuine execution that aligns with what they value. For example, if your boss lights up when senior leadership acknowledges their team, you can create documentation that highlights team wins in ways that get noticed upward. If your boss relaxes when things run smoothly without their intervention, you can proactively solve problems before they escalate. If your boss gets energized by creative thinking, you can bring well-developed ideas that spark their imagination. You're not manipulating emotions, you're creating professional conditions that allow your boss to operate at their best. And when they operate at their best, you benefit. But here's the advanced move. Learn to differentiate between temporary moods and deeper patterns. A bad day is temporary. Adjust and move on. But if your boss shows sustained stress, disengagement, or frustration over weeks, that signals deeper issues. Maybe they're being pressured to leave. Maybe they're burnt out. Maybe organizational changes are coming. When you spot sustained negative patterns, that's your signal to start protecting yourself. Update your resume. Document your wins. Build external relationships, not out of disloyalty, out of professional awareness, because if your boss is struggling systemically, that instability will eventually affect you. Machiavelli wrote extensively about reading the moods of princes and adapting strategy accordingly. He understood that the same advice given in different emotional contexts produces opposite results. Timing and emotional state determine everything, so starting today, create a simple mental framework. Before every interaction with your boss, ask yourself, what's their emotional state right now? Baseline, elevated, deflated, stressed, energized. Then adjust your approach accordingly. This single habit will transform your professional effectiveness. You'll stop walking into landmines. You'll start capitalizing on opportunities. You'll become someone your boss sees as emotionally intelligent and situationally aware. And in competitive environments, emotional intelligence separates the promoted from the passed over. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I read the room. Law 5. Understand their career. Fears and ambitions. Your boss has a boss. Your boss has career goals. Your boss has fears about their trajectory. And if you don't understand what your boss wants and what they're afraid of, you're operating blind. Here's the reality most employees never consider. Your boss isn't just managing you. They're managing their own career. They're trying to get promoted, stay secure, build reputation, or sometimes just survive. And every decision they make is filtered through that personal lens. When you understand your boss's ambitions, you know how to position yourself as an asset to their goals. When you understand their fears, you know how to avoid triggering their defenses. Let's start with ambitions. Is your boss climbing aggressively? Are they trying to get promoted to the next level? If so, they care intensely about visibility, results, and anything that makes them look good to senior leadership. You become valuable by helping them achieve wins they can showcase. Is your boss comfortable where they are? Are they more focused on stability than advancement? If so, they care about smooth operations, minimal drama, and avoiding risk. You become valuable by being reliable, low maintenance, and effective without needing constant oversight. Is your boss building toward a lateral move? Are they trying to transition to another department or function? If so, they care about building relationships across the organization and demonstrating versatility. You become valuable by helping them network and showcasing cross-functional impact. Is your boss coasting toward retirement or exit? Are they mentally checked out? If so, they care about maintaining status quo and avoiding anything that creates extra work. You become valuable by taking ownership and reducing their burden. Each scenario requires a different strategy. Most employees use the same approach regardless of their boss's actual career state. That's why they plateau. Now let's talk about fears. What is your boss afraid of? Some fear being exposed as incompetent. Some fear losing control. Some fear being replaced. Some fear failure. Some fear looking bad to leadership. When you identify their fear, you know exactly what not to do. If your boss fears incompetence, never publicly highlight what they don't know. If your boss fears losing control, never make decisions that seem to bypass their authority. If your boss fears being replaced, then never appear too ambitious in ways that threaten their position. This isn't about enabling bad bosses. This is about navigating reality. You can't change your boss's psychology. You can only work within it or around it. Here's a practical example. I once worked with someone whose boss was clearly insecure about technical skills. The boss came from a business background and felt threatened by technical employees who spoke a language he didn't fully understand. Most of the technical team responded by either dumbing things down condescendingly or speaking over his head in frustration. Both approaches reinforced his insecurity and created friction. One person figured it out. She started translating technical concepts into business impact in every conversation. She never made the boss feel stupid. She made him feel informed. She positioned her technical expertise as something that served his business goals rather than something that highlighted his knowledge gaps. Within a year, she became his most trusted advisor and got promoted twice. That's not manipulation. That's professional intelligence applied with strategic empathy. Machiavelli understood that a prince's fears and ambitions shape every decision. He wrote that advisors who understand these forces can guide outcomes, while those who ignore them get dismissed or destroyed. Your boss's psychology is the terrain you're operating in. You don't change terrain. You learn to navigate it effectively. So ask yourself right now, what does your boss want in their career? Advancement, security, transition, exit, and what are they afraid of? Exposure, loss of control, replacement, failure. Once you answer those questions, you know exactly how to position yourself for maximum strategic value. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I align with their goals. Law 6. Identify who really influences them. Your boss doesn't make decisions in isolation. They're influenced by specific people, mentors, peers, senior leaders, trusted advisors, and if you don't know who those people are, you're missing a massive opportunity for strategic positioning. Here's what most employees don't realize. Your boss listens to certain voices more than others. And sometimes those voices matter more than your direct relationship with your boss. If you want real influence, you need to understand your boss's influence network. Start by observing who your boss mentions frequently in conversation. Whose opinions do they reference? Whose approval do they seek? Whose criticism do they fear? These are the people shaping their decisions. Next, watch meeting dynamics. Who does your boss defer to? Whose input changes their position? Who can push back without consequences? These are power players in their network. Now here's where it gets strategic. Once you identify the key influencers, you have two options. Build relationships with them directly, or ensure your work is visible to them through your boss. If you can build direct relationships, do it. But do it authentically. Don't bypass your boss in obvious ways. Instead, create natural touch points. Contribute in cross-functional meetings. Volunteer for projects that involve key influencers. Build reputation through competence, not politics. If direct relationships aren't feasible, make sure your boss can showcase your work to their influencers. Create documentation that's easy to share upward. Deliver results that make your boss look good when they report to people they respect. Position yourself as someone who enhances your boss's credibility with their network. But here's the part most people miss. Influencers can be positive or negative. Some people lift your boss up, others undermine them. Some relationships are supportive, others are competitive. When you identify negative influencers, people who seem to diminish your boss or create political friction, stay neutral. Don't get drawn into organizational drama. Don't take sides in conflicts that don't serve you. Remain professionally connected to your boss while maintaining distance from toxic dynamics. Machiavelli wrote extensively about understanding networks of influence around rulers. He knew that advisors who understood these networks could position ideas more effectively than those who tried to influence the prince directly. Your boss exists in a web of professional relationships. Some strengthen them, some weaken them. Your job is to map that web and position yourself strategically within it. Think about it. If you know your boss highly values input from a specific senior leader, and you deliver work that impresses that leader, you've just elevated your standing exponentially. If you know your boss is mentored by someone, and you align your approach with that mentor's philosophy, you've created invisible alignment. This isn't manipulation. This is organizational awareness. Companies are networks, not hierarchies. Power flows through relationships, not just titles. The employees who understand networks advance faster than those who only focus on their direct manager. So right now, make a list. Who are the top 3 people who influence your boss's decisions? What do those people value? How can you become visible to them in positive ways? How can you help your boss strengthen those relationships? Answer those questions, and you've just unlocked a level of strategic influence most employees never reach. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I understand the network. Law 7. Master the art of strategic visibility. Here's the final truth that separates those who advance from those who stagnate. Your boss can't value what they don't see, and most talented employees are invisible, not because they're incompetent, but because they don't understand strategic visibility. Let me be clear, this isn't about self-promotion in an obnoxious way. This is about ensuring your contributions are visible in ways that matter to your boss's priorities and decision-making process. Most employees work hard in silence, assuming results speak for themselves. They don't. Not in competitive organizations where your boss is managing multiple people, multiple projects, and multiple pressures simultaneously. If you're not strategically visible, you're forgettable. Strategic visibility has 3 components: frequency, relevance, and medium. Let's break each one down. Frequency means you show up on your boss's radar regularly, not constantly, but consistently. You're not invisible for months then suddenly asking for a raise. You're creating regular touch points that keep you present without being annoying. Weekly updates, project milestones, quick wins, these create consistent visibility. Relevance means what you make visible aligns with what your boss actually cares about. Remember those pressure points we discussed? Strategic visibility means highlighting work that solves those specific problems. If your boss cares about speed, make your efficiency visible. If they care about quality, showcase your attention to detail. If they care about innovation, highlight creative solutions. Medium means you communicate visibility in the format your boss actually consumes. Some bosses read emails carefully, some skim, some prefer verbal updates, some want dashboards and metrics, some respond to stories and examples, match the medium to their preference. Now here's the advanced strategy. Create visibility not just for yourself, but for your boss. When you deliver results, frame them in ways that make your boss look good upward. When you solve problems, document them so your boss can report wins to their leadership. When you create value, position it as team success led by your boss. This isn't dishonest, you're still doing the work, but you're ensuring the work gets recognized at multiple levels. And when your boss gets recognized, they remember who made them look good. That's how loyalty and advocacy are built. But here's the trap to avoid. Never make your boss look bad publicly. Never correct them in front of others. Never take credit in ways that diminish their leadership. Strategic visibility enhances their position while building your reputation. It's not competition, it's collaboration with intelligence. Machiavelli understood that advisors who made princes look wise were valued far more than advisors who made themselves look smart at the prince's expense. Your job is to elevate your boss while ensuring your contributions are undeniable. Think about the best relationships between bosses and employees you've seen. They're partnerships where both parties benefit from each other's success. The employee delivers results that make the boss shine. The boss advocates for the employee and creates opportunities for growth. That's the dynamic you're building through strategic visibility. So here's your action plan. First, identify the top 3 results you've delivered recently. Second, frame those results in terms of your boss's priorities. Third, Communicate them in your boss's preferred medium. Fourth, do this consistently, not just when you want something. Within 3 months, your visibility will transform. You'll move from background employee to strategic contributor. Your boss will think of you when opportunities arise because you're consistently present in relevant ways. And here's the ultimate outcome. When promotion decisions are made, your boss doesn't have to search their memory to remember your contributions. They're recent, relevant, and undeniable. You've built a case for advancement without ever explicitly asking for it. That's professional intelligence at the highest level. You've shaped perception through strategic action. You've controlled narrative through consistent visibility. You've positioned yourself as indispensable, not through volume, but through precision. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I control my narrative. The ultimate truth about reading your boss. You've just learned 7 laws that most employees never discover. Communication styles, pressure points, decision patterns, emotional intelligence, career psychology, influence networks, strategic visibility. These aren't theories. These are field-tested strategies that work in every organization at every level. But here's what separates knowledge from transformation: implementation. You can know all of this and do nothing, or you can choose one law, implement it this week, and watch how quickly your professional reality shifts. Start with communication style. That's the foundation. Identify whether your boss is analytical, driver, expressive, or amiable. Then adjust your next 3 conversations accordingly. Notice what changes. Notice how they respond differently. Notice how you're suddenly being heard in ways you weren't before. Then add pressure points. Spend 1 week observing what your boss cares about most, what dominates their attention, what creates stress, what generates relief. Then position yourself as a solution to one specific pressure point. Watch how quickly you become valuable. Layer in decision patterns. Track when your boss says yes most often. Notice their approval triggers. Time your next request strategically. Compare the result to previous requests made without timing consideration. Build emotional awareness. Start noticing baseline versus deviations. Adjust your approach based on their psychological state. Watch how much smoother your interactions become. Understand their ambitions and fears. Research their career trajectory. Listen to what they talk about wanting. Notice what makes them defensive. Position yourself to help them win while protecting their vulnerabilities. Map their influence network. Identify the 3 people who matter most to your boss. Find ways to become visible to those influencers, or help your boss strengthen those relationships. Master strategic visibility. Create consistent, relevant touchpoints that keep your contributions front of mind without being annoying or self-promotional. This is the complete system. 7 laws that transform you from reactive employee to strategic professional, from overlooked to undeniable, from stagnant to ascending. But remember this: professional intelligence is not manipulation. It's awareness, it's adaptation, it's strategic competence. You're not deceiving anyone. You're understanding psychological patterns that already exist and positioning yourself effectively within them. Machiavelli wasn't teaching evil, he was teaching reality. And reality rewards those who see it clearly while others remain blind. Your boss operates on predictable patterns. Your competitors don't study those patterns, but you just did. That's your advantage. That's your edge. That's your pathway to influence, advancement, and compensation that matches your value. Now here's your choice. You can go back to working hard in silence, hoping someone eventually notices, or you can implement these laws systematically and take control of your professional trajectory. Most people choose comfort. They stay invisible, they complain about politics, They blame the system. They watch others advance and wonder why. You're different. You're reading this because you want more than hope. You want strategy. You want results. You want to understand the game so you can win it ethically, intelligently, and decisively. So take action today. Pick one law, implement it this week, track the results, then add another. Within 90 days, you'll be operating at a level most employees never reach. Your boss will see you differently. Opportunities will appear. Compensation conversations will shift. Your career trajectory will accelerate. And 6 months from now, when someone asks how you advance so quickly, you'll smile and say the same thing I'm telling you now. I learned to read patterns most people never see. If this video gave you clarity, drop a like. If you know someone stuck in their career who needs this system, share it with them. If you want more strategies on professional intelligence, career advancement, and workplace psychology, subscribe and turn on notifications. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I see what others miss. Remember, your boss isn't your enemy. Your boss is a puzzle, and you just got the solution key. Now go use it. The game is already being played. The only question is whether you're a player or a piece. Choose wisely. Your next move determines everything.